I was 18 years old when I made a decision that I now understand how exactly it shaped my life and everything that follows. I joined the United States Marine Corps, not because someone told me to, not because there were no other options in my life. I looked at everything available to me and I chose the hardest thing I could possibly find right out of high school, which was the Marines. The branch that every other branch measures against itself. The training's longer, the standards are higher. The expectation of excellence is not a goal, it is a baseline that everyone must follow. I didn't know what I was walking into at the time. I just knew I didn't want to be ordinary, and I was willing to do whatever ordinary people weren't willing to do. And what happened next surprised even me. I didn't just survive the Marine Corps, I actually excelled at it. I was promoted faster than my peers, and I earned some of the highest awards and honors available to a man in uniform. I became disciplined in a way that I had never been before, not because it was easy for me, but because I had learned something that most men never learn. How to eliminate everything that doesn't take you closer to where you're going. When everyone around me was out cutting loose, having fun, getting drunk, I was practicing, perfecting, and refusing to be anything less than the absolute best thing I could be. And for a period of time, I was exactly that man I had set out to become. And then I was about 23 years old and something happened that I'm not going to go into right now because the details aren't really the point of this video. What matters is, in a single moment, the path that I was on was destroyed. And what followed that moment taught me something about human beings, about men specifically, that I could not have learned any other way than by trial by fire. And what I learned is that discipline is not a permanent possession. I learned that standards do not hold themselves forever. I learned that the man you have built yourself to be quietly can be dismantled, not in one dramatic collapse, but in 1,000 small private negotiations that each feel completely reasonable at the time. And I learned that the most dangerous battle a man will ever fight is not the one that's in front of him. It's the one that's inside him, the one that no one witnesses, or the one that doesn't leave any visible scars. The one where you agree just this once to be a little less than you know you should be just this one time. And then you do it again and again and again. And then the day after that, you do it again until one morning you wake up and you look in the mirror and you realize you don't even recognize the person looking back at you anymore. I've been that man. And then in this episode, I'm going to tell you everything I know about how it happens and more importantly, how you stop it. So just stay with me until the end. I want to describe to you something as honestly as I possibly can because I think most men who have experienced what I'm about to describe have never heard it. Really what it's named accurately. And when you can't name what's happening to you, sometimes it makes it difficult to stop. So here's how the slide in life works. It doesn't start with just a bad decision. It starts with a reasonable one. And after that thing that happened when I was 23, after the path I was on got completely destroyed, I found myself in unfamiliar territory. The structure I had built my identity around was absolutely gone. The mission I was on was gone. The clarity in life was gone. In that vacuum, I started spending time with different people, men who were living differently than I had been living before. These were comfortable men who weren't demanding much of themselves, men who had decided that good enough was, in fact, just good enough. And at first, I told myself I would just take a break from being disciplined. I was recovering. I was letting myself breathe after years of relentless discipline. And that's what I told myself. And that story felt completely reasonable. But here was what was actually happening. Every day that I spent living at their standard, I was quietly becoming that standard. Every time I skipped something that I previously would not have skipped, skipping became slightly more acceptable, a little easier to do. And every time I negotiated with myself, I lost. And that negotiation became easier and easier to have and harder to win. I wasn't resting by this point. I was eroding. And the most dangerous part of this erosion is that it doesn't feel like erosion while it's happening. It feels like just a little bit of relief. It feels like I'm finally letting myself be a human instead of some disciplined robotic machine the military had created to be. It feels like you've earned some right to relax. to kick back until one day the man who ran towards the hardest thing available at 18 is actively avoiding anything that's difficult in life. And now he's making excuses and he's defending what mediocrity looks like with a language that again is reasonable, but it's really just fear wearing a disguise. And I know how collapse happens now. I know it intimately. It doesn't announce itself. It just whispers, just this once, just today, just until things calm down. And because there's no room to challenge those whispers, because the negotiation, it's done in private. And the deal goes right through every time until that deal stacks up into a life that you no longer recognize. So here's what you have to understand about this. It's not weakness that allows this to happen. It's humanity. Every man in the world is susceptible to this slide. The decorated and the undisciplined, the ambitious and the complacent, the man who once was elite and the man who never even tried. The slide does not discriminate. What discriminates is whether you recognize it or not, and whether you care enough about it to stop it once you see it happening. I want to introduce you to the only competition that actually will determine the direction of your life. Most men spend their entire energy measuring themselves against other people, against what their peers have achieved, against what someone their age is supposed to be, against the highlight reel of the men that they follow on Instagram or Facebook or TikTok or whatever social media platform you want to talk about. And I understand that pull of comparison. I've been there too. When you've lost ground and you know it, looking outward at someone else's progress feels like it gives you a reference point. But here's the truth. Comparison to other people is a distraction dressed up as motivation. It keeps you busy while you're measuring and while you're comparing and reacting to what you're seeing and judging instead of doing the one thing that would actually move you forward, like looking at your own patterns. You see, the real competition has you never against other people. It's always against within. And it's always been about you versus you. You against the standard you once held. You against the version that you allowed to quietly disappear one small compromise at a time. And that's the only scoreboard that truly matters. And here's why that scoreboard is much harder to look at than it is to look at someone else's. Because you can always explain away someone else's advantage. You can attribute to their successes as their circumstances, their connections, their timing, their luck, whatever you want to call it. You can give it and construct a reasonable explanation as to why their progress doesn't really count as a measure that's possible for you. You cannot do that with your own past self. The 18-year-old who walked into the hardest thing available had none of the advantages you have now. More experience, more knowledge, more tools, and yet somehow the man you are today with all that accumulated wisdom is doing less than it did that kid with nothing. That is an uncomfortable truth to face, but it's also a useful one because it tells you exactly where to look for what went wrong. Not all your circumstances, not at what happened to you, not at the people who didn't support you or the opportunities that you didn't get in life, at the private negotiations, at the small decisions made when no one was watching, at the moments where you agreed quietly but reasonably without drama to hold yourself to a lower standard, lower than you knew you were capable of. And that's where the gap lives. And that's where you need to close it. Here's the thing about losing yourself gradually. You don't notice it while it's happening because you're still the same person on the outside. You still got the same face, the same name, the same history. The people around you call you by the same name and you know more or less the same way that they always have. But it is not built from your name or your history. It's built from your repeated behavior. And when your repeated behavior changes, when your standards that you once enforced begin to quietly disappear, your identity, whether you want it to or not, is going to change with those things. Not publicly, not even dramatically, privately. In the accumulated evidence of what you do when no one is watching. And I'll tell you, when I knew mine had changed, it wasn't one moment. It was a collection of small recognitions, a conversation where I defended a decision I would have been embarrassed to make 2 years earlier. A morning where I found a reason not to do something that I knew I should do, and I felt nothing about it at the time. A moment where someone from my past, if they had saw me, I would have felt shame, not guilt about the specific action, the deeper kind, the kind that comes from knowing the distance between who you are and who you are capable of being. And that shame is information. It is not punishment. It is your internal compass pointing you at the gap between your current behavior and your standard, your actual standard. You see, most men try to silence that feeling rather than use it. They distract themselves. They rationalize. They surround themselves with people who are validating that lower standard so the gap doesn't seem so visible. I did all of those things. And here's what I learned. That gap doesn't close because you stop feeling it. That gap closes because you decide to do something about it. Not tomorrow, not after things settle down, not once your circumstances improve. The moment you look at the man that you become square in the face and you decide honestly, without any of your bullshit excuses, that you are not the man in the mirror and you are not going to be that person one more second. That decision is not made once. It must be made every single morning when the alarm goes off. Every time that negotiation starts first thing in the morning. Every time the whisper says this once. Identity is not recovered in a single dramatic moment. It is rebuilt the same way it was dismantled. One private decision at a time. The difference is now you're deciding deliberately. And so, my friends, here is the critical part. How do you actually win this battle? Not in theory, not in a motivation video terms, in real daily life, when everything in you wants to take the easier path. I'm going to tell you exactly how I did it. Not because my method is the only one, because it's the one that worked for a man who had completely lost himself and needed to find his way back onto a path that no longer existed. So the first thing I did was I stopped measuring myself against where I used to be, and I started measuring myself against what I was doing today. Because looking at how far I have fallen was paralyzing. That distance was too large. If I focused on closing the gap between who I was at the peak of my life and who I had become, I would have quit before I even started. It was way too much to ask. So I ask a different question. Is today's version of me better than yesterday's version? And that's the question I stick with. That's it. That's the only competition. Not against my 23-year-old self, not against the decorated Marine, not against the man I was supposed to become, against the man I was yesterday. And if the answer was yes, even by the smallest margin, then that day I count it as a victory. It is a W, a win. The second thing I did was rebuild my standard from the floor up. Not my peak standard, my minimum standard. The floor below which I refused to fall, regardless of what I felt like at any given day, at any given moment, or any given time. A short list. A non-negotiable one. No debates, no exceptions, no bullshit. When you have no floor, you have no limit on how far down you can go. That floor isn't glamorous. It's not inspiring. It's just the thing that stops the slide from happening. Build your floor before you build anything else. The third thing, and this one is the one that changed everything for me, is that I stopped listening to how I felt, and I started acting on what I had decided in advance. Because feelings are like the weather. They are constantly changing. They are completely unreliable as a guide for behavior. And if you wait till you feel ready, if you wait till you feel motivated, if you wait till you feel like yourself again before you decide to act, you will be waiting forever. That feeling does not come first. It comes after. You act like the man that you want to be before you will start feeling like the man you are going to be. And over time, not overnight, not this week, maybe not even in the month, this feeling follows the behavior. The identity will eventually catch up to your actions, and that version of you that you previously lost, that disciplined, that driven, that focused man who chose the hardest thing available and became excellent at it, that man, he is not gone. He is just buried under years of small compromises, and you dig him out the same way he got buried, one day at a time. One kept promise at a time, one private victory at a time, in a room where there is nobody watching and no one is applauding and no one would know if you ultimately decide to quit. But that's where you win. That's the only place you ever really win, is in private when no one is watching. You are who you are when no one is watching. I joined the Marines at 18 because I didn't want to be ordinary. I became something I was genuinely proud of, and then I lost it quietly, one compromise at a time. And then later in life, I rebuilt it quietly again, one promise at a time. And I'm telling you this not because my story is unique, because my story is not. There is a man watching this right now who was once something more than he is today, who made a choice somewhere along his journey or had a choice taken away from him, and he's been living below his standard ever since. And that man knows the distance. He feels it every single day. He just doesn't always know what to do with it. And here's what you do with it, my friend. You use it. You use that distance as the evidence that your standard that you once held yourself to right now is not the standard you are actually capable of. And then you close that gap. Not all at once, not in one day, not dramatically, not with a grand declaration that will fade by Thursday. One private decision at a time. Starting today, starting right now, starting with the next choice that you make that nobody will ever know about. That's the battle. Win it there first, and here is what I'm asking from you today. In the comments below, tell me the one standard you are committing to and that you're going to hold yourself to starting right now. Just one thing. Not a goal, a standard. Something you will no longer negotiate on. One word if that's all you have in you. One sentence if you have a little bit more. Because the man who types out that commitment in a comment is slightly more likely to honor it than the man who just thinks about it and keeps on scrolling. And I read every single comment from every episode that you leave. So do it. If you name something you've been feeling but couldn't put the words to it, share it with this man. Share it with someone who needs to hear this. Don't ask, just send it. I'm Ken Lane. You guys, this is Diaries of Masculine Men. This is the place where we show up, we tell the truth, and we build something great, and we create a future for ourselves that other people want to live themselves. Something real. I'm going to see you next week, like always, on Sunday, so come back and be ready to work.